let's do the neutral cards. Alright, so neutral cards, 1/9 Karazhan, let's go. Legendaries. First one, Morose. Morose is a pretty disappointing card, not gonna lie. When I first saw the card, I was underwhelmed, and I've had a little bit of time to think about it. I still think it's bad. It's a 3 mana 1/1, stealth. At the end of your turn, summon a 1/1 steward. No idea why it's legendary. It has a terrible effect. It's not a powerful effect at all. It's basically a worst version of Imp Master. Imp Master is just better, right? It's a 1/5. It's much more sticky. So I said earlier that stealth is hard to remove, which is true, it is. But a 1 health minion with stealth is not that hard to remove. You have things like Arcane Missiles, Ravaging Ghoul, Twilight Flamecaller, and any board clear, anything that does random damage is going to kill Morose so easily. And when you play the card, you're getting 2/2 for 3 mana, which is very, very poor. And even if it survives another turn, you get 3/3 in the form of 3/1/1s, which is very, very poor. And if you get and if it survives some more turns, you're just getting 1/1s. And ultimately, who cares about 1/1s? Like they don't do anything. So unless you get some kind of significant buff for them, but you don't really have any. The stewards don't have any buff synergistic cards at the moment. There's no card that says, oh, give all stewards +2/+2. You know what I mean? Like the reason why hand recruits, there's like a silver hand recruit mid-range paladin before, is because you had Quartermaster, right? Quartermaster was such a powerful card. You got 4 hand recruits. You drop the Quartermaster. You buff all your hand recruits, and you suddenly got a huge board presence. With Morose, the steward's got no synergy. There's nothing really to buff it with. The main synergy that comes to mind is the Paladin 3 mana 3/3, the Steward of Darkshire. That card gives all 1 health minions that are summoned Divine Shield. So if you play a Steward of Darkshire, if you coin out a Steward of Darkshire on 2, it survives. You play Morose on 3, it's a 1/1 Divine Shield. It's basically a Argent Squire with stealth, and then it summons an Argent Squire, and then every turn it's summoning an Argent Squire, provided the Steward of Darkshire stays alive, which it probably won't. So, and are lots of Argent Squires good? Not really, because they trade poorly. Your opponent, if they want, can just ignore them. They're annoying to remove, true, but they don't really trade very well. They don't really put you ahead on board, so it's a pretty bad card. I think you'll see any play at all. It's a good one for dust. If you want 400 dust, Morose is your guy. Then we have the Curator, which is such a cool card. 7 mana, 4/6, taunt, and mech, and Battlecry. Draw a beast, a dragon, and a murloc from your deck. Now, at first impression, you might think that this card is like a joke, right? Like, oh, there's no way that you could have like beast, dragon, and murloc and mech synergy in one deck, right? Like, it's crazy. And 7 mana for 4/6, like, it's such a terrible card, right? But hang on, give it a chance, okay? Give it a chance. So you think Ancient of Law, right? Ancient of Law, pre nerf was a 7 mana 5/5, no taunt, draw 2 cards. Okay. Now this is the potential to be a 7 mana 4/6 taunt, which is better than a 5/5 no taunt. Draw 3 cards. Okay, now provided these cards can't be spells, they have to be exactly a beast, dragon, and a murloc. But still, the point of drawing these specific cards means that you then increase your odds of drawing the spell combos that you want later on in the deck. But even if you don't draw all 3 of these things, if you just draw a beast and a dragon and ignore the murloc tag, you're still drawing 2 cards out of your deck and summoning a 7 mana 4/6 taunt. You're basically summoning a Druid of the Claw and playing a Arcane Intellect for 7 mana in 1 card. That's a powerful effect. And there are beasts and dragons that you can play in pretty much every single deck. Azure Drake, he's playing nearly every single deck. It's okay in every single deck, apart from maybe Zoo. Draw a beast. Things like Stampeding Kodo sees a lot of play because it has a lot of because there's a lot of warriors on the ladder right now. Stampeding Coda has a lot of targets to hit, so Stampeding Coda sees play in nearly every single deck. Stranglethorn Tiger can be played in nearly every single deck. So, I think this is a very good card. You can draw your Stranglethorn Tiger. You can draw your Azure Drakes. But more importantly is that the dragon tag is a big one. So if your win condition is a big dragon and you only run one of them, then you can basically double your odds of drawing this card. So for example, if you really wanna draw your Ysera on turn 9, then if you have this card and Ysera in your deck, then you basically double your odds of drawing Ysera by turn 9, and that's a really big deal. It makes your deck much more consistent, much more likely to draw Ysera by turn 9, and that's a powerful effect. But even more significantly, I think, is in Freeze Mage. So this is a synergy that I think not many people have thought about, but in Freeze Mage, playing Alexstrasza on 9 is such a big deal because it puts your opponent on a clock. They have to kill you either that turn or the next turn, because otherwise you're just going to burn them down with fireballs and all your spells, right? So Freeze Mage, having Alexstrasza on 9 is really powerful, but the problem in the moment is that it's quite inconsistent, and the way that the way that they're trying to guarantee that they get Alexstrasza on 9 is that they just draw a lot of cards. They play like Novice Engineers and a lot of card cycle to try and draw into Alexstrasza on 9, but it doesn't always happen. It's still very inconsistent. But having the Curator in your deck means that you basically have two chances to draw Alexstrasza. If you can either just draw Alexstrasza normally, or you can draw the Curator, play the Curator on 7. You're defending yourself because it's a taunt, it's a 4/6 taunt, and you're drawing Alexstrasza, and you're guaranteed to have Alexstrasza on turn 9 to reduce your opponent's health to 15. So I think the card is very, very powerful. I think it will see a lot of play in a lot of different mid-range and control decks, and Freeze Mage, I think it's underrated by too many people. Very powerful card. Very excited to start playing with it. Then we've got Prince Malcus. When the game starts, add 5 legendary minions to your deck with a 5/6 stat line, and it's a demon. So it's a pretty wow card. It's like 5 legendary minions. Like, that's crazy, right? You think. And the 5/6 stat line I said is very, very good. As I said earlier, it's like Pit Fighter, more than premium stats. It's like exceptionally good stats for the mana cost. But how good is the effect? When the game starts, add 5 extra legendary minions to your deck. So you start the game with 35 cards. Now some people think, hey, well, that's so good for fatigue, right? You're adding more cards to your deck, which means you're going to do better in the fatigue game. That's true, but the problem is that most legendary minions are very, very high mana cost, and you do not want to be getting these minions in the early game, and especially in the mulligan. So we're not really sure how the mechanic of this card works yet. We're not sure whether it's before the mulligan stage. The mulligan stage is the card swap stage, or after the card swap stage, and that's a pretty big deal. If it's after the card swap stage, then maybe it's okay. But the problem with adding these legendary minions, these random legendary minions, is that you have no idea. You have no idea when you're going to draw them. You have no idea what they're going to be or how useful they're going to be. You might get like 5 Lore Walker Chos or something, or like if you have 1 Lore Walker Cho and you draw that instead of the key part removal or the key board clear that you needed to stay alive in the game, then it's really, really bad. So in my opinion, the card is terrible. I don't think it'll see play in any decks. I think it's really good for people who don't have a lot of cards and they just want to try playing legendary minions. A low rank maybe, but in terms of competitive, getting high rank, this card is terrible. In Arena though, this card is crazy. In Arena, this card is like probably one of the best legendaries you can get, because legendary minions in Arena are just nuts. If you have any legendary minion in Arena, you're gonna do very, very well. And getting 5 legendary minions, doesn't matter how good they are, how high cost they are. Because the Arena meta is the power level is much more reduced. This card is very, very good in Arena. Definitely pick it. I don't know whether you pick it over Ragnaros, but it's pretty close. It's very powerful. And then we've got Barnes. So Barnes is the last neutral legendary, 4 mana, 3/4. Battle Cry, summon a 1/1 copy of a random minion in your deck. So So just from a stat distribution point of view, you're getting 4-5 worth of stats split across two bodies, which is worse than if it's just 1 minion with 4-5 stats. But the interesting thing is the synergies you can get with this card. So it's very, very powerful in any deck that runs a lot of Death Rattle minions. So any N'Zoth deck, so the N'Zoth decks are the ones that come to mind, obviously N'Zoth Paladin. You pull this card out, you get a 1/1 Tyrion, so it's basically like an Annoyatron, but gives you a 5/3 Ashbringer when it dies. Or you get a Sylvanas, so you get a 1/1 Mind Control, basically. Cairn, get a 1/1 that summons a 4/5. These are crazy. So all the Death Rattles are very, very powerful. But I think this card will definitely be a staple. I think every N'Zoth deck will play this card. But actually, I think every Hunter deck will play this card. And the reason why I think every single Hunter deck will play this card is because Hunter has a lot of powerful Death Rattles without needing to run N'Zoth. There is a N'Zoth Hunter out there, but it's just not as good as the mid-range aggressive Hunter. But the real problem with Hunter right now is the 4-mana slot. You've got the Houndmaster, which is really good if it lands, but making it land on turn 4 is really, really hard. And if you're playing a 4/3 without the effect landing, it's terrible, terrible tempo. And the other card that it's competing with is the Infested Wolf, and the Infested Wolf is a 3/3 Death Rattle 7/2 1/1 Beast Spiders. That card is really, really slow. The stat distribution is really, really poor, and it's just not a very powerful card. So I think you substitute either a Houndmaster or a Infested Wolf out for Barnes for sure. If you play Barnes and you get a high main, you're getting a 1/1 Death Rattle 7/2 2/2 Hyenas. Like, that's so powerful. If you're getting the Kindly Grandmother we talked about earlier, the 2-mana card. If you're basically summoning another Kindly Grandmother from your deck. But the important thing is that it's a copy, so that card is still in your deck. You're not replacing that card with this 1/1 copy. It's a copy, so it's a fabricated minion. So it's a very, very powerful card. I think you'll see a lot of play. Definitely we're going to see play in Hunter where the 4-mana slot is so weak. I'm really excited to play playing with Barnes. I'm not gonna lie. As a mid-range, as like the mid-range Hunter, because I love playing mid-range Hunter, and so this card is like super exciting for me. It's a powerful on-curve 4-mana minion with a lot of good targets in the Hunter deck. So very powerful card. Definitely going to see a lot of play in Death Rattle heavy decks. Yeah. All round good card. Oh, there's one more legendary, and that is Medivh the Guardian. So Medivh is the host of the party. That's the theme of the expansion. It's like a big party, and we're seeing equip Atiesh, great staff of the Guardian. So what is Atiesh? You see it here on the right. After you cast a spell, summon a random minion of that cost and lose 1 durability. So you're basically getting the summoning stone effect in a weapon, which is better because it's a weapon is harder to remove than a 0/6 creature, believe it or not. And summoning stone effect is very, very powerful. If you land a big spell with summoning stone in play, you get a huge tempo swing. The problem is that I think Medivh is too high mana cost. You're getting 8 mana 7/7 with Atiesh. Atiesh, the weapon, is not powerful enough to justify playing in the late game. It doesn't trade with anything very well. So you're really getting Atiesh for the effect, and the effect can only trigger the turn after you play Medivh the Guardian. And by that point, is it really worth it? What high mana spells do you have? You've got Pyroblast, you've got the Firelands Portal we talked about earlier, but that's off curve again. So I think it's a cool card. I think some people will try to make it work. I will try to make it work for sure, but I don't think it's going to be competitive. I think it's too slow. I think the metagame is going to be too fast to make this card playable. It doesn't fit in Tempo Mage. It doesn't really fit even in Reno Mage. So I don't see this card seeing any play. It definitely doesn't fit in Freeze Mage. It's a fun card. It's a cool card, but not competitive, unfortunately. And so that wraps it up.